Can AEW afford to lose the Elite? Can they afford to let Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega leave either this year or next year when their contracts come up? And the simple answer, the straightforward answer is hell no. Now, rumors have been swirling all over the IWC, all over the wrestling news websites, that their contracts are coming up. And that Tony Khan has yet to make a big enough effort to re-sign them to AEW. That's just the rumors. They don't know it for sure. I don't know for sure. We're all in the same. But I am hoping that very, very soon, very, very near into the future, AEW puts out a statement saying that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, that they are here to stay for the next 3-4 years. And I'm hoping that they stay with the company for the rest of their careers. Now, there are a lot of fans out there that would love to see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega make an appearance in WWE. See how that run on the biggest stage possible would go. And don't get me wrong, I would too. And even though I'm not a proponent of the fierce WWE versus AEW rivalry, I do understand the fact that in order to create a sportsmanship-like rivalry, which is all it can be, all it should be, you need key iconic players for each team, for each brand. And for me, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, along with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, should be the only men, and I might even put Jade Cargill and Britt Baker if we're also including female superstars, Jade Cargill and Britt Baker along with all of them, that cannot jump ship ever to WWE. And that's just on the fact that AEW's identity is tied to them. Even more than it was tied to Cody Rhodes, who started up the company with AEW, but he started off with WWE way back in 2007. So that's all fine and well. But these four men, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, MJF, these two women, Jade Cargill, Britt Baker, they are today AEW bred, AEW's face. Even more than Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin and Jungle Boy, he would be a step lower, or Wardlow even. I don't know, but AEW, All Elite Wrestling, they are literally in the name of the company. Young Bucks and Kenny Omega cannot leave AEW. Tony Khan cannot afford to do that, to let them loose. And I know a lot of wrestling fans know that Tony Khan can afford pretty much anything. So the only reason these men or these superstars would leave AEW is because they've realized that they are content at the company. It's because they realize that their creative direction isn't going the way they want it to or the way they would like it to. They aren't giving the best matches, the best storylines, and therefore they look for an escape. They look for a new beginning, and that would be WWE. And herein lies another issue with why these men are currently rumored to be leaving the company soon, or their contracts rather are coming up soon. Tony Khan books for the hardcore wrestling fan base instead of the casual fan, instead of the mainstream fan. And that right there is an issue. That right there is a problem. Because if you book for the IWC, if you book for the hardcore wrestling fans, then that means you have to alternate. That means you have to switch out guys over and over again. We have to go from Britt Baker to Jamie Hayter to Saraya to Toni Storm to Thunder Rosa to Rio to... And then eventually we'll get back to Britt Baker and the cycle starts all over again pretty much. And we don't let superstars, we don't let wrestlers really build up their pedigree, really build up their accomplishments. Because then you'd be doing what WWE loves to do. And there's a reason why WWE is at the top of the industry. WWE likes to pick a certain star and keep them at the top and always bring them back to the top because they know that that's how they create superstars. They know that's how they make fans believe that these stars are above everybody else. That's how you create a star. That's how you sell tickets. That's how you sell merchandise. That's why we always saw John Cena on top. That's why we always saw Roman Reigns when he was a babyface. That's why he was always on top. That's why we always saw and continue to see Charlotte Flair on top. That's why right now, the EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, has been on top pretty much since her appearance on the main roster. That's how you build stars. You keep them on top. You keep them winning. You add up. You rack up their pay-per-view main events, their pay-per-view main event wins, their championship wins. That's what you do. And that is something that Tony Khan does not want to do. Why? Because he keeps booking for the IWC, the hardcore wrestling fans. Because in my belief, the Young Bucks should be the New Day or the Usos of AEW. They should be in a tag team title contention at least every 3 to 4 months. Kenny Omega, he should be in the main event scene, the world title scene, every 3 or 4 months. Kenny Omega should be a multi-time world champion in AEW today, but they refuse to do that. Why? Because, just like TNA Wrestling in the past, knew that AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were team players. They were going to stay with TNA Wrestling because they belonged to that brand and because they knew WWE was too overcrowded with stars at that time. So they just picked them, put them in a match, whether it worked for a storyline or not, whether it worked to build that star or not, and then they let time run out. And now AEW is doing the exact same thing to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Why okay, they had their World Trios Championship run. Okay, let them have it. They lost to the House of Black. Let that end. Put a bookend to that. That's it. That's their World Trios Championship run. We got the Elite as World Trios Champion. That is it. Put the Young Bucks back in the tag team division. They should be the face of the tag team division. Kenny Omega, put him in the world title scene. Put him in the main event title scene. Can you imagine Kenny Omega versus MJF at Double or Nothing in May in Vegas? What kind of headlines? What kind of tickets it would sell? The attention will go exponentially back onto AEW. Right now, and even after WrestleMania, the attention would continue to grow on that match, on that rivalry, on that feud. And compare that to MJF versus Paige, where we relatively think that, MJF is going to retain his title easily. Not easily, but there's a higher chance that will happen because Paige is not at a level of a Kenny Omega. If you put Kenny Omega versus MJF for the world title at Double or Nothing, then you got all the AEW wrestling fans doubting whether or not MJF can retain his championship. Wishing, predicting Kenny Omega to become world champion once again, and then we have this iconic feud between MJF and Kenny Omega that ends at All Out in August or September. AEW cannot afford to let these guys loose. They cannot step ever foot in a WWE ring. And as much as I, as a wrestling fan, would love to see that happen, that cannot happen. Because they are, just to put it bluntly, they are their Sting. And yes, Sting eventually came over to WWE. But that was because there was no WCW. That was because TNA ran out of money and they could not pay Sting anymore. Now we don't. Now we have a different option. That doesn't have to happen. AEW, Tony Khan has those deep pockets. All they have to do is present them with the right contract and keep them on a creative track that puts them at the forefront of AEW today and AEW's history for the future. That's just it. But again, that's just my opinion. Those are just my thoughts on this particular situation. We'll see what happens. You already know what I think about it. You already know what my wishful thinking. Now I'd like to know what you think. Do you think we'll eventually see Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks make an appearance for WWE in the very near future? Or do you agree with me more in the fact that AEW has to keep them at all costs? Leave them in the comments section below. I'm Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk. Tune in later on tonight at TBS for another edition of Dynamite, and I'll see you next time.